Is my voice audible?
Yes, right.
In the last class, we have seen Spring.xml, and by using that, we have connected to the database using driver manager data source and JDBC template, right? But now, instead of using JDBC, we need to discuss about Spring ORM. So it's a combination of both Spring framework and the object relational mapping. That you can say that Spring and Hibernate integration, we can say. So whenever Spring and Hibernate integration comes, we need the jar files, right? So first, what you need to modify? The pom.xml. So what we modify in the pom.xml, we add the Spring ORM jar file or the Spring ORM Maven dependency, you can say. So Spring ORM Maven dependency. And in this, what version we are selecting? 5.1.20. Yeah, here 5.1.20 you are selecting. So just copy this Spring ORM and paste it here. And we need Hibernate, right? So Hibernate Maven dependency. Hibernate core Maven dependency. What we can take, previously we have taken 5.6.4. So the same thing we'll take now, copy, paste it. So all these jar files you can observe in the Maven dependencies folder. So you don't have to worry about what a particular version and what jar files we need. The dependencies will download for you. Next thing, the app config. Here previously JDBC template was used. This is common for any database. The connectivity is common. And what changes? The session factory is required. So what is session factory? If you see the Hibernate connection in this, the hibernate.xml, we need to, this is already done, right? We need to write these things in the mapping class. So what's happening here? The thing is, we have to write this in Java file. How to write this thing in Java file? What we need to do? We need to have a class first of all. So I'll remove this code which is not required. This entire thing I'm removing. And next thing, app config, what changes we have to do? We need to write the session factory. So we don't have directly the session factory. We have local session factory bean. This is the class. So what it does, it gets the session factory object. So get session factory. Now I need to create the object of local session factory, right? I'll just copy local session factory bean. So SB equals to new local session factory bean. So just import this Hibernate 5 we have imported. Next, what we can do here, this data source object is there, right? We need to set it. For JDBC template, we use the constructor. But now what we can do here, SB dot set data source object. How to get the data source object? You can see here, get data source method is there. What we need to return now? Return the SB. What is SB now? The object. But along with this data source, I need to add this hibernate properties also, right? So for this, we create a properties tag. So let's say I'm creating a properties object, new properties. So this is available in core Java itself. So if you want to import, you can import java.util itself. And by using this method, what we can do, we can call key value pair, like map key and value pair. So hibernate dot show underscore SQL. So what we have here, true, because I want to generate the query. So put object key and value pair. So hibernate dot dialect. Here it's dialect, not dialect. Spelling was corrected. So what is the dialect? You can say, you can just copy from here. The same dialect, org hibernate dialect, MySQL dialect, copy and paste. Next, what we have, pr dot put this key and value pair. What is that key and value? Hibernate dot hbm2 ddl dot auto. Next, what we can give, we can say it as update, because already the table will be there. I'll be using it, right? Save this part. Now we need to send these properties to the hibernate. SB dot, what we can say, set that particular hibernate properties object. What is the object? PR. So that has been set. Now this student.java is there, right? I don't want to create a mapping file. So what we do, at the rate entity, we create it as annotation. So at the rate ID, at the rate column, these are common. So what we say, name equals to that particular ID itself. So I need to import the packages, right? Every time it will be java x dot persistence only, not org dot hibernate. So these are the JPA particular things. So next, at the rate column, we have name equals to name itself. At the rate column, name equals to marks itself. So this is the class. What is that class? That's an annotated class, right? SB dot, what we can say, set annotated class. What are the annotated classes we have? Only one class is there. That is student dot class. So only thing we are changing from JDBC template to the at the rate being, we just changed this to the local session factory. That's it. And now here we don't have JDBC template, right? What we have here, we need to create that particular object. Like what object I want? I want the session factory object, right? So next, get Spring template will write the same. So I need to send a session factory object to this particular thing. So I'll remove this. So I'll call a method here. For that, we need to write the changes, make the changes here in the Spring template. So I don't require this JDBC template now. I'll remove this JDBC template. I'll just say private session factory SF. So what we have, factory. org.hibernate, right click, say source, generate getter and setter methods. I want to generate the setter method. Generate. So this set SF session factory object I need to pass. And what method we can call, you know, every time session object we need to create. So how to create SF dot open session, org dot hibernate. Then what we do, sc dot create query. Already we know that this is HQL from student s. What we have, the return type as query qr dot list. What it returns, list itself, li. So only qr we need to get. So import that qr, that's fine. So next, what is the return type here? I dot next. The I dot next is object, but I want student, right? So student s equals to new student. This is downcasting, converting the superclass object to subclass. So what we say, get ID, get name, get marks. So the next thing will be app config. I need to set that object st dot set sf. What is it? Session factory. So get session factory sf, like object, get the session factory object. You can see here, if I call the get object, I'll get the session factory object. So I need to call that method. That's it. And whenever I call the get session factory, I'm getting local session factory bean. And whenever I'm calling the get object, I'm getting the session factory object. Okay, so that's the difference you can see. Now everything is set in the student, in the main logic. Anything changes, you have to do get string template. That's correct. Everything is correct, right? So let's run this thing. So we got all the values. What I changed, only app config, I added this. Instead of sending that JDBC template object, I added the get session factory object. That's it. And student, I converted into the annotations. Main logic, everything is same. Just the two things I have changed. Any doubts in this thing? Is it clear? No doubts? So next part, what is Spring MVC? So we have seen JDBC, Hibernate, and now we have to see MVC part. If you see the appointment application, what we observe in the Java resources in the SRC, for every particular servlet, we write a web.xml. That is a mandatory thing. For every servlet, one servlet and servlet mapping tag is required. Now, what are the problems you can say of servlets and why we required this Spring MVC? That is the main important thing. If you observe clearly, if I create 10 pages inside a servlet, so I'm talking about the servlets concept here, not the springs. So if a requirement is 10 pages, like registration, login and all, what I need to do? 10 servlets I need to write. 10 servlet classes and servlet mapping tags. How many? Again 10. So what we can say? 10 servlet and servlet mapping tags must be written. Okay. So all the servlet classes, servlet and servlet mapping tags, these are 10, 10, 10, because you can see here for 4 particular servlet classes, 4 particular servlet and servlet mapping tags, and 4 particular HTML pages, patient registration, patient login and all. So the same thing will go on for the number of pages, right? So what is Spring MVC doing? How it's reducing this work? In Spring MVC, what we do is we don't write 10 servlet classes. Let's say I have 10 pages. You can write one servlet, or you can write, we can say, one controller class. That is sufficient. And one servlet and servlet mapping tag. So which is better now? Spring MVC. Why? It reduces the particular efforts, or it reduces the number of files. The complexity is getting reduced. So what is MVC stands for? Model View Controller. So it's nothing but what we are doing in the servlets. We are writing the JDBC code here itself, Java code here itself, database code here itself. Even if you want the HTML code, we can write here itself. So everything is written inside this particular servlet itself. So when one particular logic doesn't work, what happens? The entire application breaks down. Let's assume a simple example. A company is there. Company arranges transport for every particular employee. The transport bus is there. Through bus, every employee comes. So that is what servlet example. So what happens if the transport bus fails? What happens? The entire bus employees' work will be stopped in the company. That's the problem, because the entire bus is getting failed, right? So that is dependency. All the employees are in a single bus. The company is depending on all the employees. If the bus doesn't come, the work doesn't start. That is the first main problem. But if you see Spring MVC, it's like independent feature. What we'll say, we'll ask all the employees to come individually to the office. So if one particular employee vehicle breaks or fails, only his work is getting stopped. Remaining all are working. That is the main agenda of using this MVC. Model View Controller, we are separating the database code, we are separating the front-end code, view code, and we are separating the servlet code. All these things are done using the MVC architecture, Model View Controller. So what we can say, model means database related code. What is view? The view is nothing but the response page. What is that controller? The request processing and response generation. Everything is done by the controller. So it's like in this we write the servlet code. So what's that? Servlet code you can see. What is response page? You can say JSP files, or we have different files like HTML or theme leaf you use, or we have React framework. So all these things we have. Okay. So that can be any response. Response can be anything. It's up to us what we need to give. So this is the particular servlet and Spring MVC difference. So mostly we prefer Spring MVC because less code, less number of files compared with servlets. Complexity also is getting reduced inside the Spring MVC. And if you observe clearly, there is a problem also. What is the problem? Every time if I have a register, we need to get all the values. I need to send all the values. This also is overcome in this Spring MVC. Okay, first we'll see the basic example, then we can see the remaining things. But how this Spring framework works or Spring MVC works? How can we say that it's a one controller class we can write, or one servlet and servlet mapping is sufficient? Let's see that example, what's happening. First, a client is there, right? What the client is doing? The client is requesting some page. So every time the first request goes to a particular what we can say, it goes to a web.xml. Every time it's the same. But here, instead of we writing a like separate servlet and servlet mapping tags, we write a dispatcher servlet. So this is a predefined class. What this dispatcher servlet consists of? It's nothing but this is the servlet name, suppose. What is the servlet name? 1. So next what we have, we need to just say the servlet class. The servlet class. What is the servlet class? This is the servlet class, you can say dispatcher servlet. I'm just writing the shortcut. I'll show you once again in the code when we are writing. So next thing, so this dispatcher servlet sends to a friend controller. These are internal things. So these are predefined classes. We are not writing separately. I'm not writing a separate class for that now. Already the class is written. That is nothing but dispatcher servlet. This is nothing but known as friend controller. It's like in a project, the manager will be handling all the employees, right? The same way, if a request comes, then the request is handled by the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet will tell which particular controller it has to go. The front controller will navigate. From here, the navigation will be done. So we need to write one more XML file. So what is that XML file? Consists of one hyphen servlet dot XML. This is the file we need to write. Why one? Because the servlet name what I have given one. If it is first hyphen servlet dot XML. So this is common. This should be hyphen servlet dot XML itself. But the name, the first name will be decided based on the servlet name what we give for the dispatcher servlet. And here only one servlet and servlet mapping class will be written. So servlet and servlet class will be written. From here, first what happens, it will go to that the dispatcher controller, the dispatcher servlet will go to this particular one.xml. it will check what's the controller it has to execute and all. Then based on that, it will return back to the front controller itself. What's the request we can say? So what we have here now, so we have a controller class. So front controller decides what's the controller class we have to use. And how can you say class has controller? At the rate controller must be written above the class. Let's say I'm having public class a login or patient. So patient is now a controller class because I've given at the rate controller. The same way another controller we can write. Another controller we can write. So like this, n number of controllers we can have. From one controller only, it is getting navigated. So we are not navigating it externally. It will be done internally. So no need of writing separate servlet and servlet mapping tags. So everything will have controller. What's the class? Doctor. Controller. What's the class? Sorry, this class will be appointment. So this appointment will return a particular view, right? So this view will be taken again by the front dispatcher servlet. It's a two-way communication. What is a two-way communication? It will go to this particular controller. It will return back to that same front controller itself. Again, it will go to the one-servlet.xml. It will check what is the view, where is the view, and it will go to that view page. So view page, it will go based on that particular one-servlet only. Everything is written inside that particular one-servlet. Understood? Any doubts in this thing? Is it clear?
Yes, right.
Right. So next thing, now I'll create an application now here. How we create application? What all things we required? First, we need a form.xml, right? In this form.xml, we place the jar files. Spring Maven project. So here the Maven project, we are not creating any simple archetype. So you don't have to check this thing. We just have to say next org.apache.maven. Go to the Maven archetype web. This is important because this Maven archetype web will be the web application. So every time it's the same org.apache.maven.archetypes, Maven archetype web 1.4 version. These things we need to select. What is the group ID package? com.ex. What is the artifact ID? Spring MVC example, right? So Spring MVC I am saying. So we need to have a Spring MVC Maven dependency. Spring Web MVC Maven dependency you can say. So what we can use 5.1.20. That's a thing. Copy this. So Spring MVC, it's giving some error. Why? Let's see. So here we need to check for the dependencies tag. Here dependencies is there. So in this dependencies, I need to place it here, Spring MVC. And where is the error coming? It's in the src main web in the index.jsp file. So what is the problem? You can say the superclass javax.servlet.http servlet was not found in the build path. So first of all, we need to add the server to this. How to add the server? So we need to say target targeted runtime. What is that? Apache Tomcat 7.0. Apply and close. So that's the first thing. Next, right click, say build a path, configure build a path. As we don't have that servlet hyphen API, usually we don't use JSP. So we use either React or ThemeLeaf or Angular or Vue.js and all. So JavaScript only we are using JavaScript frameworks. So for the example, I'm showing you through this index.jsp, you can see. So what we have here now, let's create the pages one by one. So I want to have a register page, right? So index already appointment dot application is there. I'll just open index.html. I'll open this thing. Copy this path, paste it here inside this JSP. So what I need, patient underscore register.html, right? Either patient register or patient login. So I'll take patient register. So copy this patient register and paste it here in the web app. So what happened? I got the patient register.html file. So in this, what we know, we need to execute a form action URL, right? So what I'll do here, instead of saying directly patient register and all, yeah, so I'll just say patient register. Now, from here, where it will go? It will go to this particular web.webinf. In that web.xml it will go. So web.xml also we need to write. So how we write it, what we do in this thing. So in Google, you need to search for the doc type for web.xml. So Spring MVC tutorial. So this is a pom.xml, Spring Web MVC we have just added. So what we have, web.xml. Here the web.xml is there. I'll just copy this thing. Paste it here. So web app is getting opened and the same web app needs to be getting closed also. So now in this thing, what we write a particular servlet and servlet mapping tag, only one servlet and servlet mapping tag. So previously we didn't got the suggestions. Now we are getting it because of this web app document. So what we have inside this servlet, we need to give this servlet name. And what is the servlet name? I can write first, I can write one. I'll write one. servlet class. What is the servlet class? You can say com.ex dot, but this is not user defined class, right? Dispatcher servlet is a predefined class. So where is this dispatcher servlet? It's inside the org dot spring framework dot web. So for JDBC was used. For web is used in that servlet. So this dispatcher servlet is nothing but the extension of servlet itself. Dispatcher servlet. And next, servlet and servlet mapping tags will be there. So here the servlet name will be common. And what is that next thing you have? URL pattern. So what we write here in the URL pattern, just say slash, that's it. So the first URL it will execute to go, it will go to that particular one-servlet.xml. So what I have to do, right click, say new, this file. What is that file? XML file. What is that name? I can say just the name servlet.xml. It might be dispatcher, whatever the name we give, like that, servlet.xml. Next, in this also we need the doc type, right? So this is the spring-servlet.xml they have given. I'm just copying it, paste it here. So what is it first tag we are looking for? I'm looking for this context. So here we need to write a context thing, and that context is the component scan. So here context component scan scans the class path for annotated components like @component, @repository, @service, @controller, all these things it will search. So that package we are saying. So what is the base package? You can say, I can just give the base package name as com.ex because I'm giving that main package as com.ex itself. Next, after this, what we need to do, we need to have a view template, like view page where it will go. So, but before that, first let's write the main code, main logic you can say. What is the main logic you have? Open the Java resource src. I'm creating a class, and what we say the package is com.ex. What's the controller? You can say the controller itself is nothing but appointment controller. So appointment controller is the thing. And how can you say this as a controller class? We need to give @controller. Then only we can say it as what? Controller class. So import org.framework.stereotype.controller. So what is the first thing we need to do? Just say I need to write a method. Public, what is the return type? String you can take. A register you can say. HTTP servlet. For the basic part, I'm writing HTTP servlet because you know this HTTP servlet and HTTP servlet response. So what we are returning, we'll see. Return null first of all, I'll say. And how that request will come to this page, we need to write an annotation. request mapping. So what is that URL? You can say here in the patient underscore register, what I have kept patient underscore register URL, go to that patient underscore register itself. Import this particular part. Next, how to retrieve the values. We know string username equals to request dot all the values. So what we'll do, we'll go to the patient register. So already the servlet thing is there, right? I'm just doing the same thing. Just will get these things without database. I'm doing it. Copy this part and just say paste it. So no need of having the long and all. I'm not storing, right? Name, password, email address, mobile. All these values, we got it. How to use these values again? I need to send them to some page, right? So what I'll do, I'll just say request dot set attribute. So we can send this from one page to another page. What do we have? We have this name. Password. So directly what we have? Password. Email. So I'm sending the email. Address. I'm sending the address also. Mobile. So I'm sending the mobile also. So usually we use response.send redirect to send to one page, right? What I'll do is I'll just say display. What is display here? It's a display is also a particular page. So first of all, this request will again go to one hyphen servlet and it will check for the view part. What is the view part? I didn't write any view part, right? If I am getting display, to which page it is to go? Is it display.jsp? Is it the display.html? Or is it the display.themeleaf or display.js? What is this? So for that, we need to create a internal resource view resolver bean object. What we are saying, we are creating a bean with the class org.spring framework dot web dot servlet dot view dot internal resource view resolver. This is the main thing you can say. So inside that we have two things. One is property name prefix, one is property name suffix. Property name prefix means what? Where is the location of this file? So if you want, I can create a like webinf folder is there. Inside that, I'll create a JSP file, JSP folder. Inside that, I'll place it. So what I'll do, I'll just say right click new, a folder I'm creating, JSP folder. In that, I'm creating a JSP file. What is the file? You can say display.jsp. But while returning, I returned only display. But how it will go to the display.jsp? Directly, it will search for a suffix. What is the suffix means? Suffix means what is the extension? Is it .jsp? Is it .html, .js? What is the thing? That will be specifying. So we have to create a display.jsp, right? I already created a display.jsp. So in this, I need to display it. So what I'll do, I'll just create a thing known as display.jsp. I have this HTML tag in this body bg color, or else already it's been written, right? The same page is there. To this I'll make the changes, it will be easier. Let's say body and bg color equals to wheat, and what we have to do is we need to get that particular values, either angular base percentile equals to request dot get attribute of, what I can say, I can say it as uh, values. What are the values we have? Name, password, email address, mobile. Name. So these are all nothing but same JSP, everything is same. Password, email, address, and mobile. Save this thing, right? So if you want to align this thing properly, what you can say, h1 tag align equals to center. Close the h1 tag, you can say. Okay. So request dot get parameter, we are getting these particular values. Address, here it's mobile. We need to convert that, right? And if you want to show it in the between, like in middle, br. Let's run this thing. Right click, say run as, run on server. Always use the server when running this project. So patient register, I will go. Okay, so the URL is same, right? That's the reason it's not getting redirected actually. So what I'll do, I'll just search for patient register. So it's giving null, null, and null because it's going to this end result page actually. In this also it's patient register, right? It's patient register. So whenever I'm clicking on the patient register, it's going to that itself. So I'll create a JSP file, patient underscore register, or what I'll do, I'll just copy this and paste it in the index.jsp directly. So no confusion will be there. I'll remove these things. So welcome to patient register. We got that particular thing, right? So when I click on this patient register, it will execute. So Rahul is the password. You can see the values are getting transferred. Rahul at gmail.com, Delhi, and the particular mobile number. So this is what, this is nothing but what we have displayed here in the display.jsp. Instead of this, what I can use a particular concept known as regular expression. Means I'll just stop this thing. I'll say username colon directly dollar flower brackets that particular username or the name. Next, what we have a break. We can say password or email. I'll say dollar email break dollar address break phone dollar phone mobile, you can say. Next, in this display.jsp also, or the appointment controller, we are using string, right? But we have to use a concept known as model and view. The return type of these things, what we can say, we can keep it as what? Model and view. So instead of string, I'll say it what? Model and view. So I cannot return the display, right? I need to return the model and view object. So what we'll do is, instead of setting the values in the request.get set attribute, we'll create a model and view object. So model and view, that is a return type, you can see new model and view mv dot set or mv dot add object. Whatever the object is there, I can add it. Like here, I can say it as name. And what we have here, name itself. Email. What we can say here, email. What we have here, let's say address. Address. Mobile. Mobile. So which one we need to say mv dot set view name. So what's the view name? It's a string parameter. So I'll just say that view, it has to go to display and return mv object. That's a model and view object, you can say. Right? Let's run this thing. I just changed that code further. Instead of using request or response object, we can do this thing directly. Let's say I have run on server. So what I'll say, Bob. So username, email address, phone number. So this we are displaying according to the particular requirement. So this is Spring MVC advantage. Here we can write one more particular method. Instead of saying register, I'll say login. And we can use the hibernate code just now we have done, right? Spring hibernate, that we can use here. Okay, so that's it. This is Spring MVC. We'll see tomorrow Spring Boot. We'll start the Spring Boot concept where we'll see what is the difference between Spring Framework and Spring Boot. And one application like Spring JDBC we have seen, Spring Boot JDBC we'll see. Okay, or instead of JDBC, Hibernate is important, or Spring Hibernate also we can see directly. So that's it for today. We'll meet tomorrow.